Hello, I am Nilay Rathod, and in postcolonial studies, my topic for today is future of postcolonial studies. These are my informations. First of all, what is postcolonialism? As M.H. Abraham defines that the critical analysis of the history, culture, literature, and modes of discourse that are specific to former colonies of England, Spain, and France, and other European imperial powers. These studies have focused especially on the third world countries. Postcolonial studies sometimes encompasses also aspects of British literature in the 18th and 19th century, viewed through a perspective that reveals the extent to which the social and economical life represented in the literature was tactically underwritten by colonial exploitations. Political critics and writers. uh, uh, Post-colonial theories analyzes how anti-colonial ideas such as anti-conquest, national unity, nigritude, Pan-Africanism, and post-colonial feminism were forged through literature. In Orientalism, Edward Said is analyzing that how society is being shaped and influenced by the fantasies of European and European racial superiority. He pioneered the branch of post-colonial criticism called colonial discourse analysis. Professor Homike Bhabha has developed a number of the field neologism and the key concepts such as hybridity, third space, mimicry, difference, and ambivalence. Western colonial works like Shakespeare's The Tempest, Bronte's Jane Eyre, Jane Austen's Mansfield Park, Kipling's Kim, and Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness have been targeted of colonial discourse analysis. And most of the critics that major critics are like Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, Homike Bhabha, Franz Fanon, Bill Ashcroft, Gungiwa Thiong'o, Chinua Achebe, Leela Gandhi, Gareth Griffiths, Abiola Iril, John McLeod, Hamid Dabashi, Helen Tiffin, Khan Torobuli, and Robert Young. Why should we be concerned about future of colonialism? Here we is as in the post-colonial critics. If a nation is decolonized, that doesn't always mean that the nation is liberated or the people are free. Colonialism leaves its mark behind and making it post-colonialism. As Jabus have noted that most of the nations and its languages have had their history shaped by colonialism. Therefore, looking at the effort of colonialism in post-colonial written text, not only in English but other world languages, where the notion of the one language and one nation no longer obtains is an urgent task. Gayatri Spivak has claimed that no longer there is no longer have an post-colonial perspective. She says, "I think post-colonial is the day before yesterday. As the world and the technology is progressing, it has started to pose many problems such as globalization, planetary crisis like climate change. Thus, the post-colonials are going into the study of eco-criticism and globalization, terrorism, and so on. Dipesh Chakravarti finds that all his readings in theories of globalization, Marxist analysis of capital, subaltern studies, and post-colonial criticism over the last 25 years have not prepared him for the task of analyzing the planetary crisis of climate change. Some of the post-colonialists are engaged with new challenges like globalization, eco-criticism, and queer studies. Problems like this make them to think about the future of post-colonial studies. Post-colonial criticism. Eco-criticism is not a new field in post-colonial studies, but many believe that the post-colonial studies doesn't involve environmental studies nor does it have to do anything with this field. Eco-criticism is a branch of literary and cultural studies that looks at the representation of the more than human world. For decades now, environmental activist Vandana Shiva has explored the connection between colonialism and the destruction of environmental diversity. She argues that the growth of capitalism and now translation corporation exer- uh, exacerbated the dynamic begun under colonialism, which has destroyed the sustainable local countries, these local cultures. These cultures were also more women friendly, partly because women work also crucially tied to producing food and fodders. Other feminist environmentalists are more skeptical of such an assessment of pre-colonial culture, which they point out were satisfied and stratified and patriarchal. However, they agree that questions of ecology and human culture are intricately linked, especially the so-called third world country, the state. One cannot talk about a saving environment while ignoring the needs of human lives and communities. The British cultural theorist Raymond Williams noted that nature is one of the most complex idea in our vocabulary, but the eco-critics in the first wave, like 1916 and 90s, did not take this nature or eco-criticism term very seriously, and they didn't study this term in a very more complex manner. These eco-critics examined romantic or modern nature writers and tended to treat nature as other praising under uncorrupted pristine wilderness. However, eco-critics of 21st century, as we know that after the modern times, technology and industrialization was on its peak. So after the 21st century, it developed a more complex understanding of nature. This understanding of nature foregrounds post-colonial approaches and ask how the domination of nature is entangled in intersectional power relations such as gender and sexuality, race, class, and species. The field of post-colonial eco-criticism has offered a crucial insights regarding the way climate change is woven into with its history, narrative, and practices with colonial and globalization. Post-colonial eco-criticism also points that colonization is not just a history of human being, rather it has brought with its change of physical environment, including the movement of resources, animal and plant. This change was sometimes radical, that eco-critics have revealed a connection between ecocide and genocide. While the first wave, it is 1960 to 90s, eco-critics were predominantly focused on human attachments to place. Post-colonial theorists shifted toward concern of migration, hybridity, multiculturalism, and consumption in cosmopolitanism. Ramchandra Guha and John Martinez points out that it is evident in American environmentalism and its obsession with the wilderness. Rob Nixon further notes that wilderness obsession is celebrated in American literature as well as natural history, where there is a durable tradition of erasing history, colonized people through the myth of the empty lands. A prodigious amount of American environmental writing and criticism makes expensive gesture while remaining amnesiac towards non-American geographies that vanish over the intertextual intention intellectual skyline. He suggests that spatial amnesia is one reason why post-colonial criticism has been suspicion of Earth first green criticism and therefore has not engaged with questions relating to the environment. Such engagement is particularly necessary given to the battles all over third world between environmental activists and big multinational companies, which acting in concert with the nation state, despoil land and destroys communities. Like one of the major example is in Indian example in India, Narmada Bachao Andolan led widespread protest against the project. The protest highlighted not just the ecological damage but the displacement of thousands of tribal people all across the Narmada Valley. But the Indian Supreme Court determined that the dam building will continue. Smart cities, smart cities. As we think of smart cities, the first idea will come to our mind. It is a advancement of human species, but here it is not the case in post-colonial studies. Like smart cities are the future we know, but it is alarming to the post-colonialist and eco-critics because the projects like Bill Gates has taken a project in 2017. He had bought 24,080 acres desertic area near Phoenix, Arizona. This future city will be named Belmont, as he has stated in the company terms that it will rely completely on smart technologies such as high-speed digital network data centers, high-speed public Wi-Fi, high-tech manufacturing facilities, and autonomous vehicle. So here the concern of post-colonialists are that he has bought us uh, a lot of like 24,000 acre, nearly 80 million dollars land, and he will be building a city. But as we know that a middle class and a poor will cannot afford this high tech smart cities. Conclusion: post colonial studies that not only study colonialism and its impact, but it also studies globalization, eco-criticism, Marxism, feminism, queer theory, etc. Terrorism and Islamophobia is also playing vital role in post-colonial studies. Mohsin Hamid's The Reluctant Fundamentalist is among the best example for its insight into a way that the meaning of terrorism is defined by the narrative of counterterrorism, that they are used to justify the state's use of military force and mask the way in which the UK-led war on terror serves US economy geopolitical interest at the expense of human lives in Pakistan, Iraq, and Afghanistan. So, as we know that US has spent quite a lot of resources on Afghanistan because of its natural resources, and as we have seen in Reluctant Fundamentalist, that the main protagonist is a Muslim, and the main incident 9/11. So he is by look he is a Middle East or technically an Asian. So the military force, or rather the police, FBI of US, is interrogating him just by the looks of his, like he is a short, a dark skin, brown, Middle Eastern guy. So they should have noted that he should be Muslim. So they have believed that they are believing that the terrorism is very much very much linked to the Muslim community. So terrorists are, or most of the terrorists are Muslim. So the Islamophobia is spreading more and more. These are citations. Thank you.
So, so my question is, what are the three phases of post-colonialism? Explain.
What are the three phases of post-colonialism? Technically, roughly speaking, a post-colonialism first colonization other countries, colonizing other countries like England, India is colonized. Then there comes a liberation or like decolonization, we can say, and then comes post-colonialism or neo-colonization. In colonization, other countries ruling over other countries, like first world countries ruling over third world countries. In liberation, the third world countries, first world countries is no longer colonizing the third world countries. And in post-colonialism, the country like India is being colonized by its own people. Like there is a term bourgeoisie, so we can say that government or whatever system is there, it is being colonized by them. So that way we can make a three phases of colonization.
Me like, what is the purpose of post-colonial studies?
The purpose of post-colonial studies is to study that how the former colonies or other countries or nation is being colonized by the future sorry, by the rich people or multinational companies. Like there is a prison break, there is a series which is directly attacking on the us us politicians and multinational companies. So, and in other ways, post-colonialist also studies the different ways of how the globalization, terrorism, and eco-criticism and peer theory, all these things are making an impact on the people or other countries. So that way we can define it.